Who is that guy?
Yeah. This is competition. Sorry, this is competition.
have a seat, cause we're about to start in 5 minutes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please have a seat, cause we're about to start in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Calculated that that's about 1 every second of that replenishment. We finance with governments 60,000 kilometers of roads. That's more than one time going around the entire globe. We helped countries provide access of better sources of potable water to 35 million people, improve sanitation facilities for 15 million people, electricity to 35 million people. The list is very long and across a lot of sectors. But the key point is that these are very concrete results, things that matter for lifting people out of poverty, and these are results at scale, given the size of what we do. Second part of our value proposition is that we do we deliver those results with value for money. And I know it's important for many of you because you have to trade off across a lot of different potential use of taxpayer funding. We have a lot of focus on quality, making sure we monitor and evaluate what we do. We regularly monitor our own administrative costs and reduce them as we can. But perhaps the most recent and transformative change we've made in IDA is that starting last year, we've started to bring IDA to financial markets. So in the past, IDA, like most of the concessional funds, was simply like a revolving fund, if you want. You brought your contributions in, we made loans and grants, and over time the loans came back and we could re-lend those proceeds. The fact that we are holding those loans on our books means we have a capital, and with that capital we can actually borrow on capital markets. And last year, 2 years ago, we got off for the first ever time a AAA rating, and last year we went to borrow $1.5 billion from capital markets at very cheap rates. That makes your investment in IDA way more, the money you put works way more than before. So in the past, you would put $1 of donor contribution, we would get $2 of commitment authority for our recipient countries. Now this ratio has gone to 1 to 3. So it gives a lot of value to the contributions we are receiving. Now this is not just about money. The third part of our value proposition is the knowledge and the analytics that we're providing. A lot of our support to many of your governments is through policy advice, data collection, analysis as to where the sources of poverty are and what priorities could best tackle and eradicate poverty, learning lessons from other countries and bringing it to your own countries. It's not just money, it's not just analytics, it's also partnerships. That's the fourth part of our value proposition, which is we make an effort as much as we can to bring partners together with us. Partners mean obviously parliamentarians, as I'm doing today, but it's also in your countries, think tanks, NGOs, across the globe. It's working very closely with UN agencies, with other MDBs. We're lucky to have a very strong financial mechanism in IDA, but we're making every effort to make it stretch as much as possible by working with others. And the fifth part of the value proposition is that we're global. And global means, doesn't mean we're based somewhere very far. We actually have staff in every single of our clients. It's very important to be close to the projects we are financing. But we're global, which means we can draw lessons from across the globes. Many governments have a relationship with their neighbors. They don't necessarily need us to get lessons from their neighbors, but bringing lessons from across the globe or from a decade ago or from very recent innovations is something where we can bring some value. Being global also means we can work on global issues such as climate change. Last year, for the first time, over a third of our financing went to projects that had co-benefits for climate change. So that's IDA. I hope it gives you a good sense of the value proposition of IDA. It's a value proposition that we've been developing over those 18 replenishment, 60 years of existence, but which we are strengthening every round. So what's new in IDA 18? We started the implementation of IDA 18 July, just over a year and a half ago. As I already mentioned, a key part of what's new in IDA 18 is that we went to capital markets. That's extremely transformative. That's, in our view, one of the most concrete steps toward mobilizing private sector funding and channeling it at a reasonable price to eradicate poverty. That's what enabled us to change the size of IDA 18 from around 50 billion in IDA 17 to 75 in IDA 18, a 50% increase. Of the 75, we've already, into 15 months into the 3-year planning period, we've already delivered around 30 billion. So we have a very strong start in implementation. What's different? A big focus of IDA 19 was to work much more in environments that are fragile or subject to conflict and violence. This is, unfortunately, as we all know, where increasingly poverty is concentrated, and it makes a lot of sense for an institution like ours to increasingly focus our attention and our efforts in those environments. The target was to double what we are delivering to countries that are fragile. We're on track to do that. We've planned to increase, just as an example, in the 5 countries of the Sahel, we've planned to increase our delivery by 64% between the previous replenishment and this one. In Africa, more generally, we are planning to deliver 45 billion over the 3 years of IDA 18, which will be a 50% increase, and we had a very first strong year. Also in fragile states, we're trying to post more of our colleagues because being based in those countries makes a huge difference in terms of the quality of the advice we can provide to governments and the quality of implementation support we can provide to projects. An interesting innovation also in fragile environment has been that we created a new window in IDA 18 for projects dealing with the issue of refugees. And the reason IDA was asked to be part of this agenda is our ability not just to focus on the humanitarian aspect of refugees, but to think through, knowing that most of these problems have been here for a very long time. These are not just short-term crises. How to best support both the host communities and the refugees in a sustainable way, not something that's responding to the emergency crisis, but something that looks at the longer term. Just to give you an example, last year we deployed a large project in Bangladesh to support the crisis with the Rohingyas. Another thing that's new in IDA 18 is our focus on the private sector. We have a couple of very interesting projects to promote job creation, which we know is extremely high on the agenda of our clients. And I know, and I just saw your publication on the future of work, I know is very high on your agenda as well. In Zambia, for instance, we have a very interesting project that just was created to support agribusiness and SMEs, and which will reach 30,000 beneficiaries in the next couple of years. We created last year a private sector window to work more closely with our colleagues from IFC and MIGA and help them go to make private investments in places that they couldn't reach otherwise because the risks were too high and they needed support to take some of these risks from their balance sheet. Another very important feature of IDA 18 that I want to emphasize is our work on regional program. Increasingly, we all realize how regional integration matters, but also that some programs have value only if they are done at a regional level. A good example of that is in West Africa. We are supporting a very large program across 16 countries to develop a unique ID that all citizens would have that would be compatible across countries and would help citizens access finance, access services, and have a proper identity. I can see on the walls that you've been discussing a lot human capital. This is something the institution as a whole is putting a renewed focus on, but there are some interesting projects that IDA 18 is already implementing. I'd single out only one, which is in Madagascar, where we are making a 10-year commitment, which is very which is much longer than what we typically are able to do, but is really appropriate for human capital issues, which are such long-term engagements. And so that program in Madagascar is around nutrition and the eradication of stunting. Final point that I want to mention about IDA 18, which we feel very strongly, is the need to renew our focus collectively, both advanced economies, IDA countries, as well as institutions like IDA and other creditors. We need to renew our focus on debt sustainability. Debt has been building up in a number of our clients, in Africa in particular. Debt is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, no country has developed without debt. Development is about investing in the future, and debt is a good way to finance that. But it has to be done in a sustainable way. And we believe very strongly we collectively have to renew our focus, both creditors and borrowers, if we want this to be sustainable. I'm almost up to my 15 minutes, so I'll wrap up now. What does that mean for you? For the 78 countries we're working with, for you MPs in those countries, what this means is we are a very large source of funding for your budget. We have the unique feature with a number of other MDBs that all of our support is on budget. So it goes through your scrutiny. It goes through, typically the loan agreements go through your approval. It's part of the government strategy. We're not coming with our own priorities, we're supporting government priorities. So we're really looking forward to your oversight of those budgets. We're also very keen to get your support and ideas as to where we can do better, where we should be moving the agenda and putting more emphasis in IDA 19, which is a negotiation we will start next year. For MPs of our 55 donors, first a very generous thank. We're very much interested in discussing with you and coming and visit you to explain more what we're doing, showing more the value proposition of what we have to offer. We know it's very difficult trade-offs that you have to make, but we are more than happy to present to you what we're doing, give you all you need to make the case in the various commissions and parliamentary approvals. Similarly, we're also very interested to hear from you where you think we could be doing better, where you think we should be putting more emphasis on in IDA 19. I want to finally give a special thanks to the MPs here, including my neighbor, who actually are in both groups. So we have a few countries that are both recipients of IDA and donors of IDA. This is particularly appreciated and thank for that. I also want to appeal to those that are in neither group. So those that are not recipients anymore but are not yet a donor to IDA. This is really a fantastic global coalition which I'm sure you would want to be a part of. So we would welcome an engagement with you and explore opportunities in the future. I'll stop there and really thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you, and looking forward to more opportunities to continue this dialogue in this network or in your capitals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. I think we've got about 5 or 10 minutes for questions. So are there any colleagues who've got questions? Yes, Larsen.
Thank you very much. I think IDA is a great program, and the way you described it actually made it even more interesting. I just have 2 questions. When you say it's through budget strengthening of governments, is it only pass-throughs, or is there something that goes also to raising the capacity of governments to deal with poverty, in the sense that a lot of poverty exists in these kind of fragile countries, and the moment you start like working with local implementers and then ignore the government in that capacity, then you contribute further to the fragility of those kinds of countries. So I would like you to speak to that. And then the second one is, I mean, like, how much is the cash transfers part of the IDA program? Are there like CCTs, condition cash transfers, that are also part of this? And I mean, what is the I mean, what is the percentage in the global sum?
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Shamsul.
Yeah. Stephen, you mentioned just now about this IDA 18, and the focus, among others, are to renew the debt sustainability. What are the methods that are being used to assess sustainable debt? Thank you.
Thanks. So you kindly respond to those two, and then we'll see if there are others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very good question. So what I meant, through budgets, we have different ways to do that, but what all projects are implemented by the governments. So some we call development policy operation. They are just processes that go to finance the general budget. So by definition, it's managed, then it goes into the treasury, and then it's part of the general, just like tax revenues, it's part of the general budget. Other projects are financing particular activities, so say a road construction contract, but even those, there would be a unit within, say, the Ministry of Transport in charge of making the procurement, calling for the bids, assessing the bids, overseeing the implementation. So in that way, it is strengthening the government capacity. Now, some projects, their entire objective is to strengthen government capacity, so it's technical assistance to, I was involved a couple of years ago, for instance, to computerize all of the customs system of a country, and then train the custom officers to use it. So that's, now there are a few exceptions to this. We do work in countries like Yemen or Afghanistan where we can not always do that. So, but it's really the exception rather than the rule, where we would directly contract outside government budget. We do a lot of cash transfer program. I don't have the proportion with me. I could find it. I would want to say around 10–15%, but something I could find out. Again, as I said, these are not our priorities, these are government priorities. So if the government is prioritizing such CCT and cannot finance it entirely from its own revenues, or if the government wants technical assistance from us, learning on lessons from other countries, we would certainly consider that as a program. On debt sustainability, we use, we do that jointly with the IMF. We use, for most of the IDA countries, a framework called the Debt Sustainability Assessment Framework, which essentially looks it's forward-looking, so we look at the projections of growth of GDP, exports, tax, and we compare that to the borrowing plans of the country. And then we have various ratios based on experience, which out of which we have a traffic light. So essentially green if it's sustainable at the bottom of the scale, red if we think it's getting unsustainable, and amber, orange if it's in the middle. What IDA does, and which we would like other creditors to explore as well, is that we differentiate our terms. So if once a country becomes red light, we IDA don't want to be part of the problem. We want to be part of the solution to debt, so we actually provide grants to those countries. Countries that have a stronger debt carrying capacity, that are green light, we provide credits. They are very cheap credits. They are almost 40 years of maturity with almost zero interest rates, but they are credits. But those that are high risk of debt distress, we provide grants.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from colleagues? Yes.
Would you like to tell us what you have done in recent days in respect of Nicaragua and Argentina?
Sorry, could you just repeat
Yes.
in respect of?
In respect of these concessional loans, what you have done in case of recently in case of Argentina and Nicaragua?
Oh, Nicaragua.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Argentina.
And Argentina.
Yes.
So the 78 clients that I mentioned, they are the countries around the world that are on the low end of income per capita, and that don't have access to capital markets. So essentially, green if it's sustainable at the bottom of the scale, red if it's in the middle. But those that are high risk of debt distress, we provide grants. So So Argentina is not one of those. Argentina is not a client of IDA, it's a client of IBRD. So it's a different part of the World Bank group. The World Bank is supporting Argentina, but through a different mechanism. Nicaragua is one of the IDA countries, and so we have an active program. I don't know, unfortunately, the specific of that program as of today. I'm happy to follow up directly with you. It's been an active program in those countries that are getting to the higher end of our IDA clients, so countries where we are facilitating a transition over time, nothing dramatic or precipitated, but transitions from IDA into IBRD in the next couple of years.
But we are given to understand that Nicaragua is facing acute balance of payments difficulties. And I presume the facilities that you propose go to ease the balance of payments facilities for such countries. What actions you have in mind or you have already taken in respect of Nicaragua's acute balance of payment facilities problems?
So on this, I would have to follow up with my colleagues who are working on Nicaragua from the region. From what you're describing, I would assume this is something we would do in partnership with the IMF. Balance of payments issues are typically things where we want to be part of a broader group with the IMF focusing on the macro issues.
Thank you very much indeed, Stefan. Really appreciate that. Just for colleagues, most of you will know this, but the World Bank has three main, it has more than three, but three main parts of it. One is the IDA for countries that are on the lowest incomes, International Development Association. Then there's the IBRD, which is the main lending organization that lends to very many countries across the globe. And then there's the IFC, which is the International Finance Corporation, which is for the private sector. So they're all very substantial organizations, but clearly some countries are more engaged with IDA than others. Great. Well, thank you very much indeed. Can we show our appreciation to Stefan? So, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. It's great to see you all here this morning. I think, are there any colleagues who were not here when they introduced themselves yesterday morning? I know Clement is there. Would you just like to say hello, Clement, and where you're from?
Hello, my name is Dr. Clement Chua. I'm a second deputy speaker from Malawi Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wasn't here yesterday morning who'd like to introduce themselves? Okay. We're now moving on to the launch of the Parliamentary Network Asian Regional Chapter, and I'm going to hand over to our colleague Shamsul Iskandar Moid Akin, an MP in Malaysia, who's also a member of the Parliamentary Network Board. Just a few introductory remarks from me. It's because the Parliamentary Network covers so many countries, it has become increasingly obvious that we should work more on a regional basis. And with that in mind, 2 years ago, under the leadership of our Vice Chair, Olfa Sukri Sharif, we launched a network for the Middle East and North African countries, which has been very successful and has already held 2 plenary meetings. It enables the World Bank and the IMF to engage regionally with member countries, the parliamentarians in member countries, in a way that's perhaps not possible in these more global meetings. As a result of that, and it really is dependent on parliamentarians in the area being willing to form a chapter, because it requires some work, but it obviously gets support from the World Bank and the IMF. As a result of that, our colleagues from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from India, and others have indicated that they would like to see something in Asia, in the World Bank Asia region. And so with that in mind, I'm asking our colleague Shamsul to say a few words about the plans that we have.
Thank you, Jeremy, and my dear MP colleague. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Of course, it's very important that today we discuss the agenda of the launching of the ASEAN chapter of the Parliamentary Network. And I'm happy to note that we have honorable MPs from ASEAN countries. Inter alia, we have from India. I think we have MPs from India, Member of Parliament from Bhutan, and Member of Parliament from Bangladesh, and of course from Indonesia, and also from Nepal. Yeah. Do I miss any other ASEAN countries? I think that's about all. And taking the spirit of MENA chapter that we have Honorable Ulfa here, I think by hosting the meeting here in Indonesia and in the ASEAN region, it is important that we continue the good work with the proper setup of the ASEAN chapter of our parliamentary network. And of course, as of today, I will play a role as a coordinator, or rather facilitator, to facilitate the launching. And if I can suggest that after this, there will be a proper formal meeting. And of course, for our colleague information, we have, I think the Parliamentary Network had organized 2 field trips, first in Indonesia in 2016, and quite recent in Vietnam in 2018. So we do hope that the Member of Parliament from Vietnam will be here as part of us. And of course, I think we also like to invite more other MPs from other ASEAN countries. If the North Africa can organize 10 countries, right? Remember, 10 countries. I think as of today we have about 6. Can get more countries to join, and because of that, if I can suggest that after this parliamentary meeting, maybe we can organize an official meeting. The place, I think, if I can suggest, of course, Kuala Lumpur, much easier, but we can also suggest any other place that can be in the center so that everyone can come. And from there on, I think we will properly set up our committee, the structure, and then we continue there on with the programs that relate with the objectives and the mission of the Parliamentary Network, World Bank, and IMF. I end there, and of course, if I may, open to discussion, especially the Member of Parliament from ASEAN countries, if they have any other views and points that can share with us. Or maybe before we start, I think we have a bit of time. I can also invite Ulfa to share a bit on how you organize it in MENA chapter, just for 5-10 minutes, so that we can have an idea on how you do it. I think, for me, of course, from the reports we read, I don't know whether the other colleagues have already received the report, so that we can tailor with the chapter that have already been launched, and we improvise from there. Thank you. Please, Ulfa. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamsul. The idea of launching the chapter, regional chapters, is to bring all the meetings, the annual meetings and spring meetings at the regional, at local level. And what is important is the commitment that we do and what we are discussing to make it easier for our other colleagues and MPs, and to hold actions in the region related to the context. The things that come in the MENA region, that we were focusing essentially on job creation, on governance, fighting corruption, how to ensure that there is tools of transparency on how to finance development in those countries. And the first plenary and the launching was in Tunisia. There is 12 countries who were taking part in this event. And the second plenary was in Morocco. And it's really very easy how to manage. It's the motivation of every country and to host the event. And we found together what are our connecting points and what we can discuss further together. Put it in cultural context and local context. So this is one thing. And the other thing is it's really a unique platform of knowledge and to share this knowledge and share those experiences. So we can invite experts from the World Bank and the IMF and to learn more how to use those tools and transparency with our constituency or with the parliament, with the committees. And the third thing is what we are looking for is how to build capacities of MPs. And before launching the MENA chapter, one experience was with the accounting committees and finance committee. We held a building capacities week or session. It was in Lebanon. And there is some subcommittee that that was born on accounting, on public accounting in Parliament. So I invite you all to launch at the local level, start, and this motivation will bring more commitment at the regional level. So we are very keen that we are here today in Indonesia for the annual meetings, and it's really a good occasion to find 5 countries or 6 countries from Asia. So now it's yours. You have to. Thank you.
Thank you all for giving a brief insight of what MENA chapter has done. I think we can define the topics of interest after we launch this chapter and during the proper, or rather official meeting. Yes, Mike from Bangladesh.
Thank you very much. We welcome the launching of this Asian chapter. And in our assessment, it will be a good step, primarily for 2 things. First, under the aegis of IMF, we have to operate this clearing union. For instance, the Asian clearing union know that at times we face some certain transition difficulties, and with a sort of a uniform stand on that, we can as well take it up with the IMF and other organizations. That will be of help. And second, we have observed operation of some regional development banks like Asian Development Bank or Asian Infrastructure Banks and all that, following the lines of World Bank and IDA. We may as well, formulate unified opinion in this respect and suggest measures to Asian Development Bank and Asian Infrastructure Banks and all that. And finally, I would like to say that at times we do face as members some difficulties which need to, which call for united actions by all concerned. For instance, the Bangladesh is facing this Rohingya problem, and this is a humanitarian problem, but at the same time it has economic implications, monetary implications, and if we come forward with a recommendation for taking unified actions, I think that will strengthen the position of humanity, strengthen the position of international transactions on the basis of which actions along these lines are taken. And finally, we'd like to suggest let Malaysia be the headquarters of this chapter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other intervention? Yeah, please.
Thank you again. In principle, we like the idea to bring us closer together regionally. As our colleagues from Bangladesh mentioned, we welcome for Malaysia to proceed and lead basically the path to formation of its to formalize the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. Yes, please, from Bhutan.
Thank you. Since we are speaking for the first time, it is an honor to be here in Indonesia. And on behalf of my government and people of Bhutan, I would like to thank the Parliamentary Network, IMF, World Bank, and host country, and the delegates from around the globe for this wonderful opportunity. Coming to the point, on behalf of my team, we would also like to welcome this the Parliamentary Network for the Asian chapter. I would also like to echo our colleagues from Indonesia and Bangladesh, and we would also like to welcome this initiative, primarily because of the two reasons. Number one, I think while we can learn as much as from the global region, but I think most importantly, if we have the regional corporations like that, I think it would be more appropriate to share experiences and strategies at a local level that can be implementable in each of the countries. So I think we can benefit more. Particularly issues like poverty, youth unemployment, private sector development. These are some of the areas where Bhutan can also, benefit from such corporations. And in addition to that, I think this would also enhance the regional cooperation in the members' country in the region. So I think we also support this initiative, and I would also like to propose, to lead the honorable delegation from the honorable MP from the Malaysia to lead this, and then we'll definitely, from our part, will always be there to support in this network. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please, from India.
Thank you, sir. I just want to put things in the perspective. The Parliamentary Network on the World Bank, the very first chapter which was started in India. This was also with the approval of our local World Bank office, vetted and approved and registered as the chapter, first chapter. Our last representative on the global board was elected in 2013 in Azerbaijan, Mr. Tarun Vijay. We have consistently been preparing our annual reports and submitting them to the local authorities because we are a registered association. We have had approximately, because we have 550 members of parliament and representing 101.3 billion people. So on an average, per constituency, we have 3 million as the people to whom one MP serves. And this being a large number, MPs are required to travel a lot. And plus we have multi-layer system elections. So elections start from the district level panchayats to the state level bodies and to the union level parliament. And this keeps them so busy that it has not been possible for us to have continuous communication, the manner in which we used to have when we started this in 2001. And since then, in 2001, we held number of meetings in various state levels, making the World Bank office and IMF office meet the representatives from every state level, which are also so large, they are much larger than any of the European nations. And the development requirements in those regions being such that the World Bank and IMF, they have found that we have become the biggest customer of the World Bank as far as the loan assistance is concerned, because our development rate of growth has been between 7 and 8% continuously. And we have been doing an excellent job. And we wish this parliamentary network on the World Bank to keep expanding. And we would like to associate ourselves fully with the ASEAN chapter, because we are all one. And we have already tied up with various ASEAN nations on number of other development programs. And parliamentary network on the World Bank, if develops in this region, that will be a very good thing. So our second chapter was formed at in Africa when we had Earth Summit in Johannesburg. And we had, that in those days we had Millennium Development Goals. Those Millennium Development Goals Implementation Watch was our main program, for which we had organized a parallel session over there. So we have been, Indians, I had myself chaired that meeting at the Earth Summit. So we have been continuously interacting with the World Bank, and we expect all of you to visit India when an opportunity comes. And I would organize such a program in India for all ASEAN groups to come together and meet and see our parliament functioning, and also meet with our members of parliamentary network on the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MPs from India, for very extensive experience. Of course, your experience will value add our ASEAN chapter. Thank you. Any other? Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm wearing two hats here. One is from Malaysia, another one is from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And I guess on both sides, I would like to welcome this effort to set up the ASEAN chapter for the parliamentary network. And for the chair's information, we have a chapter which we call the Southeast Asia chapter for the Commonwealth Parliamentarian Association. So when I said I welcome this, because this is an effort which can be expanded to more towards a collaboration between CPA and the network. And I believe we have a common goal, and we can share experience, and we can actually do programs together regionally. So thank you very much, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. From Nepal.
I would also like to echo the support that was expressed for launching a parliamentary network on ASEAN regional chapter. One of the things, few of the things that we'd be interested to share experience with parliamentarians of other countries would be certainly the new support that's there for social agenda, and on being realistic on moving the social agenda. Let me just take a minute and explain a bit about how we're moving in Nepal. We have almost completed the transition from violent conflict to peacemaking, conducted 3 layers of election: local government, federal government, and the national government, national parliament. At all 3 levels now there's a functioning government, and then functioning what one would like to call a parliament to support and help the government at those levels. But the cost of moving to federalism is certainly much higher, and administrative cost is increased. That's certainly an area where we will be interested in looking at experience of other countries where cost increases, but the efficiency and reduction in corruption more than compensates for the administrative cost that increases. Would certainly be interested to look into the experience of other countries and lessons learned there. Certainly going back to the social agenda, recurrent cost increases. We have a government formed by a communist party. Certainly social agenda is important anywhere. The importance of it is recognized everywhere, but communist government certainly is more tempted to adopt that's my personal feeling, that adopt socialism that probably is a little too broad at this stage. So certainly would like to see and look into the experience of other countries and learn from the experience of the parliamentarians in those countries about how they have moved on this one, and certainly infrastructure building, especially how tourism had been human capacity development supporter certainly would be of interest to us. Connectivity certainly is of interest. So I mean, in short, again, sharing experience of other countries which have similar experience, learning from the lessons they have learned there, and certainly I mean, sharing our experience also on peacemaking, conflict resolution, and very profound change at the administrative level and the governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MP from Nepal. We wish you all the best in the transition period. And all the supports from the MPs from Indonesia, from India, from Bangladesh, from Bhutan, and of course from Malaysia. And God willing, I think after this launch, we can expect a formal meeting somewhere early next year. When it will be Indonesian election? April, yeah? Yeah, maybe after that, after April. We will decide on the place, on the venue later. Thank you very much again for all the support, and let's make it happen. And God willing, we will see interesting development next year. Thank you very much.
Can I thank you very much indeed, and to our colleagues in India, absolutely, we very much like field visit, both from the global network and indeed from the regional chapter. It's incredibly important what you're doing, and the success of India over the 71 years since independence is extraordinary. I would just like to, on behalf of the Parliamentary Network, to congratulate the ASEAN Regional Chapter that it's now being formed, it's in formation, and that it will become a great success, as I know it will. So can we all, colleagues, congratulate the ASEAN Regional Chapter? Thank you very much. Thank you. We are now expecting the Minister, so I will... Okay, right. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome General Luhut Panjaitan, who is the Minister for Maritime Affairs in the Republic of Indonesia. And I would like, on behalf of all our colleagues here from around the world, to express our thanks to you, but also our sincere condolences and sympathy to the President, to yourself, to the people of Indonesia, to parliamentary colleagues in Indonesia on the tragic events that have happened in the last few weeks, and particularly in the last couple of weeks. We know how much the Indonesian government has done to try and support the people there, but nothing can compensate for the loss of your mother or your child or your father or your brother or your sister. And our thoughts and sympathy are very much with you. And yesterday we held a minute's silence in this meeting for that. So thank you very much, General, for coming to talk to us.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Mr. Chairman. It's a great honor for me to be here this morning, and I would like also to report to you, to all of you. We prepared this annual meeting IMF World Bank since 1.5 years ago. So, this morning I got reported, just to inform all of you, a number of participants around nearly 35,000 people. So this is, I think, the biggest ever, because I met Jim Kim this morning. I came from US, and I informed him also in his car. We went together. The size of this event is really very big, but we try very hard to manage to make it very well. And we are happy to inform you so far so good. And hopefully cross our finger for the next 5 days, it's going to be much better. Let me begin, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, about my presentation. I think I'd like also to go to about the map of Indonesia. If you look at this slide, this is the Indonesia, consists of 17,000 islands. Yeah. This is, I think, if you look at this slide, you can see here. So from east to west, from Merauke to Sabang, it's like 8 hours flying time. Like this is Bali. We are here now. So this is Jakarta to Tokyo, only 6 hours 45 minutes from here. So you can see the size of Indonesia. So 300 ethnic group, 700 local languages, and around 230 million we are the Muslim population. So we are the largest Muslim population. And our GDP, $1.1 trillion. Our growth, economic growth is like 5.27% last quarter. And our inflation also like 3.5%, which is, I think, quite good. So, yeah, this country we manage very well so far. But then we understand also we are facing a lot of problems that we have to fix it. Now, if you look at now the demographic bonus or curse, you can see this data. This is, I think, very important, because we have only room 25 years. So we have to fix it, especially with the, with the technology today. Then human capital is very, very important. If you look at this data for the using robotic, for instance, we are still behind. Yeah, look at now like China, South Korea, North America, much better. They don't have problem with robotic. They don't have a complaint. If they complain, yeah, no holiday. They cannot do complain about that. That's why very important. If you look at manufacturing right now, decreasing. That's why education and health, government and tourism cannot replace yet by the by the technology. But still, human capital. We have to focus on this one. So the government of Indonesia right now has a program to fix this one. So we understand also we are quite behind on the quality of education, especially on technology, vocational training, polytechnic, which is we need very much to improve the quality of our industry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at also to the next data, that we also care very much on the, what we call it Dana Desa or village fund. If you look at from the 2015, 16, 17, and 18, you see that we increased that village fund. Village fund, we 900 around the country. You understand the size of the country? Then we allocated this budget. What's the purpose of this? Basically to bring equality. Because if you don't do this, then we just focus in Java Island and Sumatra Island, then no equality. That's going to be a big problem. If you look at the budget that we have, then basically we can grow to 6% if we focus only Java and Sumatra. But Mr. President Joko Widodo said no. I would like to see equality. So that's why eastern part of Indonesia, we have to help them to move faster, and that's why we need also to build infrastructure over there as well as education. Ladies and gentlemen, you look at now to support economic activities, to improve welfare. This both, this I think help us. If you look at now Gini ratio in Indonesia or number of poverty in Indonesia, percentage of poverty, I think decreasing. This is the first time in the history of Indonesia that poverty right now below 10%, 9.82%, which is I think still very high in terms of number, because 9.82%, it is around 25.9 million people. So that's a target, and the president gave us target, we have to bring down below 25 million by next year. Then we have to work very hard. Now we believe with the Dana Desa, with the infrastructure program, this is to help us to improve life quality and economic activities in the villages. In the same time, I think bring some more equality to around the country. Ladies and gentlemen, village fund allocated for water sanitation program has contributed to reduce the stunting rate. Stunting is one issue, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at this one, 2013, 2016, we decreased this very much. We work very closely with the World Bank. The World Bank assists us very much on this particular issue. And we understand also stunting is very dangerous to our GDP. So then we pay attention very much on this. If you look at now, according to recent studies, stunting impacts the level of skilled labor, high medical costs, poverty, and inequality. So this is a thing that we have to consider very much. So we understand that we have to focus. We cannot do everything in the same time because we have also limited budget on this particular issue. Based on primary health research in 2013, stunting rate, like I said, this is 37%, and today is today is less than this. I'm sorry, I cannot. Less than 27%, which is I think good for Indonesia, because the president, vice president, wants us to focus also to make sure that the stunting have to be declined, and also World Bank plays a very important role in this particular issue. Now, we have a problem about industry. The people sometimes ago, one professor from Stanford came to my office asking me about the One Belt, One Road, issue. Then I said we have 4 things, the criteria when you invest in Indonesia, whoever you are, whether you are One Belt, One Road, whatever. Number 1, you have to be, environmentally sustainable. This is, I think, very important. We don't want to see second-class technology to invest in Indonesia. So, I met also the official and DRC, for instance, the minister, my counterpart. I said, no, we don't want to see this, this second-class technology. You have to give us first-class technology. Otherwise, if you don't comply to this, I think it's going to be difficult for us to accept your investment in Indonesia. And then we like also you to use the local labor. Local labor is very important. But then I told them, we have to be realistic also. Then I reported also to the president, because if you're talking about investment in Indonesia, especially in the eastern part of Indonesia, you cannot get the skillful labor in that area. So then we give them 4 to 5 years' time to prepare the labor. How do we do it? And then we provide polytechnic over there, vocational training. We train the teachers over there. We provide also the module for this training. If you look at one showcase in Morowali, after 4 years in Morowali, this is the Morowali. Excuse me, I'll show you. This was Morowali here. Now we have a very successful story over there. Payroll per today, like 27,000 people. The Chinese employee today, about 2,600. So now decrease the number. Why? We have the polytechnic here. We have a vocational training here. So then we can replace the foreign labor with the local labor. And number three, we don't want to see we want to see added value. We don't want just export raw material anymore. Added value from the upstream to downstream. So like here in Morowali, they process the nickel to stainless steel, carbon steel, and now we like to see the other industries, like maybe small industry like fork, like medical, pharmaceutical, something like that. So then create added value, create job opportunity, of course create tax. But we have another investment here, also in Maluku, Halmahera, North Halmahera. This is also a $10 billion Chinese and French company. And I told them loud and clear, if you want to invest here, you have to comply to that 4 criteria. We are not going to just allow you to do this while you don't pay attention to education, to our rule of thumb. And they agree. The last one is transfer of technology, transfer of knowledge. We don't want Indonesia to be only market, in market of high technology. We like also to produce something, the high tech. We have so many smart people. So like in Maluku, they go also there, the largest nickel reserve on earth. This is the Chinese and French company. So this is from nickel, stainless steel, carbon steel. Then I asked them to go to lithium battery, and they agree. And I told them, research on this, you have to include the Indonesian scientists. Now, part of Indonesian scientists from the BPPT, from the ITB, some of university, joined to this research. So this is, I think, my explanation to about this. And then increasing domestic value added of Indonesia, like I mentioned to you earlier. This one, I think, the industry. Yeah. So government also provide fiscal incentive in the form of super deductible tax for any investment spent for R&D, because we spend very little for R&D. If you look at this, ladies and gentlemen, R&D. So we give that incentive. We give double tax deductive incentive. And what else is very important for Indonesia? Before we don't touch this very much, tourism. Tourism, this. We understand there are 3 top tourist destinations around the globe. It's this Java Island, Bali, and Lombok. We don't touch this much before. But now we understand it. So that's why we build the infrastructures. We provide much better access to go to the area. For instance, like Lombok now. Lombok, yeah, Bali. We make it the apron bigger now. So increase the tourist people to come to Bali right now, 1.2 million people, and also the occupancy rate of the hotel increased from the 60 to 70%, from 70 to 80%. So I think the economy in Bali, because of this, gonna be better than before. Now, human capital improvement is part of our comprehensive strategy to boost tourism sector. This is, I think, very important. Our target today, next year, is 20 million tourism. And 2024, we have to go to 25 million. But this one is still lower than Thailand. Still low. Thailand, 40 million already. We are half of Thailand. Even with Malaysia. Malaysia is still higher than Indonesia. Why Malaysia is so interesting for the people to go there? Because something wrong maybe with us. So we have to learn from Malaysia. We have to learn from other countries in order to make Indonesia very attractive. One of the biggest problems in this country, the first time President took office, I said this is comfort zone. Comfort zone means uncertainty in the area, who can create kind of, hanky-panky over there. Now we minimize that. We minimize that in order to make our economy efficient, in order to make our, our confidence or ease of doing business in Indonesia, it's better. Today, I think we are ranking 72. Before, it was 102, I believe. So within 3 years, we decreased the number, make it better number from 102 to 72. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is Indonesia, and yeah, I hope during your stay in Indonesia, you can learn something, you can see Indonesia. Like I mentioned, because a lot of foreigners, they thought Indonesia only Bali or maybe only Jakarta, But when I show you the map, I think you are aware, I believe, about that. And we have 3 time zone. Indonesia 3 time zone. So it's not 1 time zone. This is 3 time zone. East, center, and west. So I came from North Sumatra. Maybe the slide I can go back a little bit. So before I conclude my my remark, This is I came from here, Lake Toba, and some of these members of parliament from Indonesia, maybe they are from from Manado. This is also from Manado here. Can you imagine here? Maybe like 4 hours flying time. So you can see the size of Indonesia. So to manage Indonesia also is not easy. Then when this morning I was with Jim Kim, World Bank president, and he asked me about what happened in Palu. I said, in Palu, yes, this is very bad, much worse than Lombok. But again, this is ring of fire, ring of fire. So, but then taboo before talking about the, kind of taboo, to talk about the earthquake. But I said to the cabinet meeting, to the president last week, I said, Pa, we are living in this area since maybe billion of years ago or 1,000 years ago. So we have to have the contingency in order to quick response to any earthquake. So then the government of Indonesia prepare right now, here the logistic base here one, and here in Bangka Belitung and Surabaya, Kalimantan, Makassar, as well as in here. So this area less earthquake. What's the purpose of this? Basically, we want to have like heavy equipment ready over there, like purification water, and we have also landing ship tank to deploy this equipment. So then within 3 days, then we have to already reach the area, because this, I think, the golden time for the to rescue people in that particular problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are glad, we are happy today that also one of the topics that we're going to discuss during the IMF World Bank meeting, disaster management. So this is, I think, very good for us. And again, thank you for your participation in this meeting. I do hope that we can establish more collaboration and more understanding between our two nations. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Minister, thank you so much indeed. What you've described is very, very impressive. And for me, on my first visit to Indonesia ever, I've been really impressed by what...
Oh, you've been first time?
This is my first time.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm really impressed by what you and the governments and previous governments have done. It's tremendous. I don't know... Do you have time for questions?
Yes, please.
The minister's kindly agreed to take a few questions. We have a little bit of time. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question? The minister? Yes, a colleague from Morocco.
Mr. Minister, I really liked what you said about tourism, because I was a Minister of Tourism for Morocco for about 5 years. And also, I'm from a country where Ibn Battuta came to Sumatra like in 1340 or something, so about 7 centuries ago. And I'm really impressed by the country and also its diversity. I would like just to ask about one thing. I mean, like when you are developing like a tourism kind of agenda, one of the things you also, I used to worry about is airline connectivity. I mean, like connectivity to the other world through the airline companies and all of that. I would like you to speak to that. Is there a strategy for developing like connectivity to Europe, to also the big markets? And is that a challenge for a country so big as Indonesia?
Tolong, map tadi. Yes, this is one issue that we don't understand before, or maybe we don't pay attention, the connectivity. Connectivity is very important. So now we open as much as possible international airport. So like I give you example, my hometown, make it easy, or Manado. Ada petanya?
Can we showcase the map, please?
So, yeah, okay. This is, for instance, my hometown, Lake Toba, and this is also Sulawesi. Sulawesi to what do you call it, to China in only 3 hours flying time. Before they have to go to Jakarta. Let's make it, it's not comfortable to, to the tourism. Why should go to Jakarta? You can go direct. So now we have a direct call, from Manado, from my hometown. They can go to Singapore. They can go even to what do you call to China and also to India. So we are very welcome right now. We are very progressive on that. I give you another example like here in Banyuwangi. Banyuwangi near here, only 15-minute flying time. Before, it's very hard to go there because the airstrip is very short. And then I said, no, we have to extend the airstrip, and then now I can accommodate 737-800. So they can fly off from, from China. Now, increase tourists over there 200%. So that's, I think, the way we do it now. So connectivity is very important. Bali has a problem now. That's why we expand the apron. So Bali can accommodate only 22 million passengers per year. Now our target for the next 6 years, we increase to 39.5 million. Because Bali is so attractive for the tourists. But we don't want only one Bali. We like to see another Bali. So that's why Mandalika for halal tourists. And Labuan Bajo for the diving. And Lake Toba, mountainous. And also largest lake, I think, in this region. So that's the way we do it, Excellency. So the access to visit Indonesia, we make it easier for them to come. So like Manado, for instance. This is never happened, direct call. International airport. Today, what's the problem we don't give it? Because the size of Indonesia, you can imagine, very inefficient, Similar to the transportation of ship. They have to go from here, from Eastern part Indonesia, they have to go to Surabaya and to Jakarta before they go outside Indonesia. I went there like 2 years ago. I said, why? Because we don't have people to, my clearance here, custom, I said, bring the custom. So, what's the problem? Now they have a direct call from Makassar. They have direct call also from here. So make it now more efficient. And also from near Manado, apa tu nama pelabuhannya? Bitung, from Bitung. So we make it easy. No need to go to the president. Before I said, no, we just do it here, report to the president later. So decision-making process in this country right now much better than before. Yeah.
Our colleague Claude from Switzerland.
Mr. Minister, with so much diversity, ethnical, language-wise, how do you draw the balance between protecting local culture, making survive local tradition, and unifying the country with a common glue? You have a language, you choose not to take Javanese, the major island. You try to unify the people and at the same time to respect the local cultures. Where is the balance?
Yes, Excellency, my background military. I was in Special Forces for 22 years. I've been touring the whole country. Yeah, I was parachuting in East Timor, before, when I was first lieutenant back to 1974. So I understand fully about this one. So this is the beauty of Indonesia. The founding father in Indonesia, they already have an agreement, commitment that we have to be one nation. That's why we have a Pancasila, our ideology. And we have the same language, national language, Bahasa Indonesia. Then we have the strong armed forces to unifying this country, the same language. Without that, I don't think that this country going to be unified, become united, become one country. Not going to happen. Can you imagine how do you govern this country? Yeah. 8 hours flying time from Merauke to Sabang. But we still manage this one. Although we have some here and there, you know, opposition, it's okay lah. We listen a little bit sometimes, you know, we listen, sometimes forget, as long as we do it right. So the beauty of this one, my experience now, when I was in military, I was ambassador also to Singapore. As long as the president gives a good example, that's good. That's, I think, the very important, leadership. If you don't have a good leadership in this country, it's going to be very bad. So President Joko Widodo is a very simple, humble person. I was with Jim Kim in the car, I told you, in this morning, and he said to me, Pak Luhut, I can tell you, I'm going to give my speech. I think the best government right now in the emerging market is Indonesia. I said, come on. Yes, the president, your president is so humble. Member of cabinet also working very hard. He said it's very good because we impressed so much with this. My president is very humble, you know. He's my old friend. Doesn't have any business. His family. I asked him the other day, you know, but you know, maybe to support his son business because this is his son business catering. And I offer one the buka puasa, break fasting. And his son said, no, Pak, I don't want to have a business with the government. I have my own business, martabak. Martabak is a pancake, you know. I'm proud of my martabak. Can you imagine the President of the Republic of Indonesia? Never happened like this. How can I dare to do business within the government today? I don't. I've been friend with the President 11 years. Nothing changed. I'm 4-star general. I was ambassador. I was minister. I'm a successful businessman. He's just a small mayor in Central Java. He came to my office. He waited for me. I still have a meeting. But today, different way. He always the same, except one. Nothing changed from the president. Salat, you know, praying all the time, same. Never exposed to the public. His family or something like that. Only different, yes, now I'm waiting for him. Instead of he waiting for me, you know. So that's the difference only, you know. So how can I don't support my president, you know? He is so humble, you know? But his determination. He gives authority, full authority to us. I don't ask to the president after he gave me the, what do you call it, the corridor of games. I asked 3 times, Pa, are you agree this? Yes. Okay, Pak Luhut. He said, okay, yes. So, I'll do it, Pa. Do it, carry on. Just do it. And then I report to him time to time. That's it. That's why decision-making process is very quick. Of course, we know the rule of the games. We understand law. I'm not going to jeopardize my reputation as well as to my president. So that's, I think, the atmosphere in Indonesia to the last 4 years. I can assure you. This is my testimony here because I'm part of the system.
Thank you very much. We have one, I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Yes.
One from India and one from Uganda. I'm afraid I think that's all we've got.
Honorable Minister, you mentioned about demographic dividend also as a demographic curse. Can I know the number of people under poverty line, above poverty line, and the rich and the middle class? What is the economic demography of Indonesia?
And from Uganda, was it Uganda? Or no, no. Bhutan, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It's been a pleasure to be here. I just wanted to know that, well, in your presentation you have mentioned about the positive impact of the tourism for the country, the increase in GDP, the increase in the foreign reserves, and also in terms of labor participation.
Sorry, could you speak up a little bit?
Labor participation and all. I just wanted to find out, the number is quite, you're talking about millions, and in my country we are still talking about hundreds and thousands. So in my country, in Bhutan, we have a policy called the high impact, the high value and the low impact tourism policy in our country to ensure that we have a negative, to ensure that the tourism do not impact the culture and environment in the country. So since the number is quite large here, and also you expect to increase this number from 20 million to 25 million, as you have mentioned in your presentation, what are some of the strategies that you have instituted to ensure that the tourism has the low impact on culture, environment in your country?
Just finally, very quickly from Jordan, and thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, and I will be very quick. Actually, if we look at Dubai, for example, they try to create islands and they spend millions of money. But in comparison with Indonesia, you have 17,500 natural islands. Don't you think this is a big opportunity for Indonesia to bring investments, to use more the nature to make more money to your economy? Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, from India. I admire India very much, because I went to India like 3 months ago, This is a good example. But yeah, Indonesia also similar to India, too much democracy maybe, if I should say. Yeah. So any public policy always get criticized. Even the public policy very, very beautifully, but sometimes we get some, But because we learn also, the Indonesia democracy, the pendulum moved to the right too much, I believe. That's my personal view. But again, we try to navigate from this one. So you're talking about the rich and the poor. Yes, this is, I think, the problem that we have to bring equality also. If I may give you example, inequality ownership of the land, for instance. Maybe land of Indonesia controlled by only few percent of rich people in this country. But we have to tackle this one. But the president never issued that again anymore. I mean, to issue new license for the ownership of the land, because land have to be also distributed to the people to bring equality, to bring also prosperity to the ordinary people. So, Excellency, this is I think one issue that we are facing today, that we have to fix it. But it's not easy to do so, but we have to do it. So again, the demographic bonus for Indonesia, one issue that we have to handle. So we allocated like 20% of our state budget to improve the quality of human resources. But the problem, if you look at this now, we don't pay attention detail. How do we invest the 20%? 20% like 40 billion US dollar. We don't look at detail how do we invest the 40 billion US dollar for the education in Indonesia. So right now, President Joko Widodo say no. We have to focus. Look at, then we have to go to technology, health, research. We have to do it in this area. So research, for instance, we have only put 2 billion US dollar. We like to increase the also research in order to be, to catch up with the other countries. That's why we have also cooperation with top university around the globe, Indonesia, in order to catch up this gap. Now, Bhutan, I understand about tourism. Bhutan is one of the best tourist destinations, and you limit also number of tourists to visit Bhutan. I understand that one, and also we don't want to see too many backpacker tourists to visit Bhutan. So then also could maintain your culture. So now we are thinking also, we learn from you, like Komodo Island. We don't want to see everybody visit the Komodo Island. The only Komodo Island like this in the world, only Indonesia. So I said we have to protect this one. Then we have to let them pay high. You have to pay very high to enter this island. But then the question comes in, how about this, the student? Well, we can provide special place for them to have a look. But in that island, only researchers to do some research on this particular island. So, impact to our economy, of course, to the culture, we have to be careful, like Bali. We don't want to destroy the culture in Bali. People come to Bali because of the culture, not only the beautiful of Bali. So many other beach may be beautiful or better than Bali, but the culture of Bali is very attractive, bring you some happiness. Last night I had a dinner with President Tsinghua University, and one of his professors, psychologists, said, happiness, health, and harmony. Then they can feel it in Bali. So Bhutan also the same. A friend of mine also went to Bhutan, and they said they're impressed with the Bhutan tourist as a tourist destination. Jordan, I think yes. This island is very beautiful. So I offered the other day to invest like in this Natuna Island. We have 800 islands over there. 800 islands. So I offer also to Qatar. Now we have a cooperation with Qatar to have aquaculture here in Sabang. Sabang to Qatar only 5 hours flying time. So good for them to invest. So they're going to invest over there, aquaculture. So they want to get food security. I said, well, if you want to do it, you can do it in Aceh. Or you can go also to the other island here. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many opportunities in Indonesia. If we manage this well, this country is going to be a very powerful country. Like the, McKinsey World Economic Forum predict, and we say going to be, top 5, top 4 economy by 2030. Then I believe that. If we move like this, with the strong leadership, with the very good heart of the leader, then we can move very much. So I believe that if we can do also the same thing in your country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Can we just give you...
Could we ask everyone to please take a seat? Thank you.